We're live! Hello, everybody. Let's give it a second. Let's check how many ticks we've got. We've got 1, we've got 2, we've got 3. Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. We're all live. Welcome back, everybody. We've had a little bit of a break. I think a couple of weeks. No, a week on, week off. So there's so much news. So much has been going on. Apart from the obvious, I guess. If you haven't tuned in before, you might not know I'm in Melbourne, and we're still in lockdown, which means that we get the pleasure of doing homeschooling. So I have made the lofty decision to do our go lives on the week where my son is at his father's, been homeschooled with his dad and stepmom. So that's why we've had a little bit of break, because last week I wasn't getting anything done. So it's one of those things where you either make the decision. Oh, Benny's back. Hi, Benny. But we are back today, and that means that we will be back the week after next as well. And so awesome. The week after next is our 50th live broadcast. So in the chat, to celebrate, I am offering to a random 3 people on my mailing list. So you have to be signed up for my newsletter, which is the 411 with Aileen Day. And it's not spammy. It's, I've only delivered 3 so far. So, 1 each month. It's not too much to handle. But basically, I'm offering 3 amazing people on my mailing list the opportunity to win 2 hours of free coaching and mentoring. So if that is something that you are interested in for your business, then I will put the links into the chat, into the comment section very shortly. And, you got to be in it to win it. So that's over $1,800 worth of coaching for you, potentially, for free. So if that is something that gets you a little bit excited, because it certainly gets me excited, it really makes me so pleased and proud to know that we've stuck with this 50 episodes and so much amazing content, so much great information, helping to deliver insights into how you can become a trusted and value-driven brand using customer, employee, and human experience as your disciples and your disciplines as well. So what else is news? Today, here in the Southern Hemisphere, it's the first day of spring. Spring has sprung. If you can see behind me, it's 1st of September. We have flickerings of sunshine here in Melbourne, which is also just wonderful, and certainly breaks the dullness of autumn and winter that we get to experience here. Makes getting outside and getting fresh air a little bit more enjoyable rather than being blown down the street and coming back with hypothermia. What else has been happening? Oh, I don't know. If you follow me on the socials, you might have seen this. That's right. I passed my customer experience exam. Do you know what that means? That means I had to sit a 3-hour exam like I was 17 again. Oh my God, the stress of it all. I think I was more anxious about doing this exam than I was my university exams, which, some of you might go, yeah, you're 18, who cares? But I did university at 35. So I really cared. I really cared then, but I cared even more for this. So you might think, what does that mean? Well, that means I can never figure out how to hold it. That basically means that I am one of a handful of Australians and a slightly bigger handful of people around the world who is certified practitioner of customer experience. And to achieve that, to have that recognition, is not just a 3-hour exam. I had to fulfill a number of prerequisites. I had to show details and evidence as to the customer experience projects and strategies and outcomes that I have completed over the last 10 years. So that was always fun, pulling out all that detail and information. And what else did I have to do? SAT 3-hour exam. The application form alone, it was nearly as stressful as the exam. It's certainly, I have a large appreciation for the way that they make sure that only the best get through, because it was very difficult. So I'm very, very pleased. And I probably had so much anxiety around it because it's just like, human nature. We want something that bad. We're going to get a little bit flustered over it. So I got it. And it certainly probably gives me a little bit more confidence to go out and talk to people. Not that I didn't have it before, let's be honest. To go out there and talk to people and have them feel confident. Maybe it's more a confidence booster for other people to have them understand that, okay, she might know what she's on about. So there you go. And then what else happened? Oh my God, I feel like this is just 20 minutes of me bragging. Because it is. Guess what? Yesterday, I was accepted as a member of the Forbes Coaches Council. So remember how I said there's only a handful of people with this in Australia? I was the 18th person to receive this recognition in Australia. And I believe there's maybe about 300 in the world. So, that kind of gives you some context. Yesterday, I was accepted into the Forbes, the magazine, the business magazine, probably the most well-known business publication in the world. I was admitted into the Forbes Coaches Council. So now I am officially a contributor to the Forbes magazine as well. So I am certainly looking forward to sharing everything I can, helping people all around the world understand the joy of sex better than they ever did before, and maybe a little bit differently to what they think it is as well. So in saying that, if you haven't joined us before and you're completely new to this and you just saw my name pop up and you're like, who the hell's that? Let's give it a click. Well, let me absolutely introduce myself. I am Aileen Day. I am the founder of Meraki Business Solutions and Value Driven Brand. And yesterday was the 1 year anniversary of Aileen Day Advisory. So I have 3 separate businesses. I am very greedy. I like to put my fingers into many, many pies and keep myself busy. It's the safest way. And then on top of that, I am also a CCXP. So I thrive on explaining and helping and delivering insights into how customer experience helps businesses become trusted and value-driven brands. And I call it the joy of sex. So if you, I always do it the wrong way. If you see behind me, it's the customer, the employee, and the human experience. So a little bit different to the book your parents might have had in their bedside table. And I only say that from experience. Sorry, Mum and Dad, you know it's true. But if I wasn't 41, my dad would smack me. But this is the same thing. It is when you put those components into your business, when you apply those disciplines and tactics and strategies into the way that you do business, it does elicit, a similar joy to the joy of sex. And trust me, I know, and I'm doing both the right way, just in case you're sitting there going, well, you're not doing it right. I am, I promise. So I want you to have the same joy in your business, in your organization. And now I'm formally going to tell you all about it. So let's get on to today's live broadcast. What is it all about? Well, a lot of you may be reasonably new to the concept of customer experience. So if that is the case, I wanted to talk to you today about what is customer experience design. So in a few conversations that I've had recently, I still all the time, very often. So if this is you, please don't feel bad. This is why we're here. This is what keeps me employed and gets me out of bed, is to help the public, business owners, entrepreneurs, leaders understand the difference between customer experience, user experience, customer service. That's probably the most common, connection people have, is that when I talk about customer experience, they start to talk about user experience. So I want to firstly clarify, in the whole process of customer experience design, what is customer experience? And, if you're online at the moment and you feel like being an A-grade student and putting in the comments what you think customer experience means to you and your organization, feel free. I love hearing everybody's take on it. But the most, I guess, effective take on what customer experience is that it is the total sum of experiences a customer has with your business. So the reality is that your customer's customer experience commences long before they even pick up the phone or touch your website, and it occurs long after they've bought the product from you and taken it home. So it is all of the touch points leading up to them hearing about you, using your business, getting what they need, hopefully at a minimum, getting what they need, and then walking away, and then continuing on the life cycle of that purchase. So, and generally speaking, a lot of people in customer experience might say, oh, well, it kind of finishes at the support level. So, for example, I might need further support. So I might have brought a perfect example. I'm in the process of trying to put a whole bunch of events into my event calendar on my website, and even more cool stuff coming up, but it's not showing up the way that I want, right? And it's not preparing the tickets to be purchased the way that I want. Therefore, I have this product that I've purchased, but I need further support. So that continues on my customer experience journey. And even to the point where if I choose to no longer use this product and go back to, say, Eventbrite or another ticketing platform, that is my customer experience with that previous product continues on. Want to know why? Because I keep talking about it. So for as long as it is something of a conversation fodder, the experience continues to live on. And it might not then live on through me, but it might live on through somebody else who then talks to somebody else about that calendar platform and why they maybe should or shouldn't use it, or any caveats. So you understand the customer experience, the sum total of experiences and touch points, is so much longer than you probably ever gave it credit for. But when we talk about a user experience is predominantly what we now refer to as the experience that a customer has with digital products. So it will be things like your websites, your apps, if you have an app. It might be your in-store kiosks, right? There are so many digital products that a business can have, but anything to do with your digital products is user experience, right? So how to make you have what's called user interface. So how do you make the screen look good? How do you make the functionality behind the screen work efficiently? How do you make those products intuitive, so that, the lowest common denominator can use them? That's why I love, one of the things that I do with my clients is that I love doing audits on their website, because 90% of the time, I don't know their business. So if you can make your website intuitive for somebody who has no idea, then you are winning, right? absolutely winning, but that is the user experience. Now, the user experience is certainly not separate to the customer experience, but within it, it is a piece of that pie, right? And all works together to ultimately apply to your customer experience design and strategy and how you execute that. So I hope that creates some clarity. The customer service aspect, again, like user experience, that is also a piece of the customer experience pie. It is just one aspect of the sum total of touch points. So if you think to yourself, okay, well, I bought something online, I never had to get actual customer service until the product stopped working unexpectedly, and therefore I then had to contact the support center, and that then becomes a customer service touch point, right? So customer service, when we talk about customer experience, is not customer service. It is under the umbrella, yes, but it is not what we mean when we talk about customer experience. So if you're an organization who does not really have a grasp on what it means to implement customer experience design into the way that you work, I want to talk about a few steps, well, 4 steps, right? That off the bat, free. These are free, right? You don't have to go spend money. Ideally, if you're a larger business, I'd probably start to think about how you're going to invest into your customer experience design strategy. But if you are, just starting out in like the customer experience field, and you think, okay, I need to start pulling up my socks and being more strategic about being customer centric, and that means revolving everything around the customer, thinking outwardly instead of thinking from within. Here's some things I want you to start doing, okay? And if you need help with this is essentially, I'm giving away the way that I consult to organizations. In essence, this is what I do. When I go out to a business and I consult with them, this is how I do it. So the first thing that I want you to consider is starting, as I mentioned before, starting from the outside and working your way in. Now, there's a book called Outside In, and it's written by a couple of Forrester researchers, Harley someone and Kerry Bodine. I should know his name. I've been reading the book for ages. Harley someone and Kerry Bodine, right? Both Forrester researchers. And they are the ones that essentially helped format what are now known as the 6 disciplines of customer experience. Now, long before I read this book and even knew it existed, because I actually only knew it existed about 8 weeks ago. How bad is that? That's bad. Thank you, Stephanie, for getting me onto it. But it is called Outside In, and for a very good reason. But for a long time, for the last 5.5, nearly 6 years that I've been doing this, I have been advertising myself as a consultant looking from the outside in. And what that means is that the very first thing I do when I want to design customer experience concepts is I work outside of the organization first. And what that means is I will get a random sample of customers, and it has to be random. If you pick and choose so that you only ever have to speak to the good people and you don't, I worked for one client and they had a few people actually taking them to court over their experience and the outcomes of those experiences. And I tip my hat to them, because when I said to them, I need 100 contacts, 100 customer details, and I'm going to call them and I'm going to survey their experience, and I will only do it if it is a random sample. They literally gave me a random sample, and I was calling people who were curious. They're like, why are you calling me? I'm taking them to court. And I'm like, are you? Wow, that's great. Let's chat. So, and it was fascinating to find out that of the two clients that I spoke to, there was, I think, about 4 that were taking them to court. Of the 2 that I spoke to, at the end of it, they were like, maybe I need to rethink this. And I'm like, I mean, don't let me influence you at all. This is just asking questions. But the reality was that the issues that had created such anxiety for the customer to drive them, to take them to court, to put more money into this issue, ultimately could have been so easily rectified by the organisation. If not rectified, stopped in its tracks to never happen again. But of the 4 that I spoke to, there were very similar journeys that had caused them all to come to this conclusion that the only way to rectify it was to take the organisation to court. So, I mean, how hard is it to learn a few? That's some hard lessons right there. But that is the first thing you need to do, is you need to start from the outside in and look to your customers for feedback on their experiences. And that means more than just sending them a survey on SurveyMonkey and saying, would you recommend us? Please don't. I mean, just put some more thought into it for starters. Put some more energy and effort into it, because if you say you are customer centric, then bloody well behave like it, right? Care about the human. Remember that part? The H? That's what's going to set you apart from everybody else. I promise you. So, understand what the touch points are in your organization, and then make the time and the energy, put the energy in to surveying a random sample. And it doesn't have to be 100. It was just that I asked for 100 so that I can, you probably half of those don't answer. So you need to have a bigger sample size to make it statistically comprehensible. But ask them the questions. And then, of course, at the end, you can ask them how likely are they, based on the experiences that you've asked them about, the touch points that you've talked to them about, how likely are they to recommend you to a friend or colleague? And if you don't remember why it's a friend or colleague, let's remember that if we recommend something to our family and it goes to custard, then we're likely not to care too much because they can't get rid of us, and our social standing within the family, it stays about the same. But it is obviously a more important initiative to recommend only things that are absolutely worthy to friends and colleagues, because if we recommend things that are not worthy and they end up having a bad experience, well, then that's your social standing and reputation down the gurgler, isn't it? And whether you care to admit it or not, we care about that. That's why people tend to only recommend things, mark it a 10 on a survey when they're like absolutely frothing over it. And so keep that in mind if you're asking NPS questions, that's Net Promoter questions, Net Promoter Survey. If you want to go Google that or get in touch and we can do more work around that. So yes, you can ask them a Net Promoter question at the end, but please, I find the best way to do those surveys is either in person or on the phone. Please don't send them a survey in an email. It just doesn't have the same level of connection. And I promise you, the conversations that start when you do it in person or over the phone are phenomenal. And my other tip to that would be get someone who's a little bit separate to your business maybe to also do it, because it's quite interesting how many people, they don't want to upset you. They don't want to necessarily always tell you the truth because they think it might hurt your feelings. So find somebody in your circle who maybe has the capacity to ask questions and free talk and create conversations with customers to get deeper insights. If if you're finding customers don't want to open up to you and tell you the truth. I'm always eternally suspicious of people who have hundreds and hundreds of reviews and every single one of them is 5 stars. It just doesn't feel like, it feels like there's something missing. So, but half the point of doing that, or most of the point of doing that, is listening to your customer and starting from the customer and working your way back in. So then the second thing I want you to think about doing to create customer experience design in your organization is very simply observation. I want you to sit in a corner, not creepily. I can just imagine. I want you to sit, in the workplace, right? Or where the customers gather or where your team gathers. We're talking about your customer and employee experience. When I consult to organizations, I do what's called operational observations. So I work out what the team functionality looks like and the culture, and you can tell so much from just sitting back and, as I have come to learn, shutting the fuck up and just watching and just listening to what happens around you. And for those of you who like people watching, the best. It's so much fun. But there's some caveats to doing observations. Number one, especially if it's your team that you are observing, how they interact with the customers, how they interact with each other, how they interact with leadership, how they interact with direct reports. Please be upfront and honest with them, because I've seen it be done a couple of times where the manager just sits there with his clipboard and it just looks like he's taking notes on everything. And yes, that's exactly what you should be doing, but the team aren't aware of what you are doing. So they get upset because they think that you are surreptitiously watching them and they get nervous, right? So please don't cause that stress for them. You want to be upfront and you want to be honest and you want to be candid. And we've talked a bunch of times about being candid. And what that means is that you let them know what you're doing, when you're doing it, why you're doing it, the why you are doing it. And the why you are doing it is to understand the natural order of how things work in the organization, right? And you can't just sit there and question people and say, so when you do this, what happens? Because what tends to happen is people go, I do this. And it becomes grand motherhood statements, right? Bullshit, essentially. You don't want to deal with the bullshit. You want to be able to visualize in reality what actually happens and then decipher from there. So you could say, team, today, Aileen's coming in, she's going to be hanging out and watching how everyone connects with each other. So it's non-threatening, right? We don't want to feel threatening because it's not threatening and no one's in trouble. It's just a case of you don't want them to think that, you're spying on them, because you wouldn't like that yourself, would you? If someone just turned up and lurked in the corner of your office and was like, right? So when you are upfront and you're honest about those observations and why you're doing them and what you hope to achieve, what actually ends up happening is they get involved, right? I have seen it happen where there's been a customer interaction with a team member and the team member has gone up to the person observing and said, did you see that? Did you see that? This is what happened. This is what I did. And you go, okay, well, that's really interesting. But then also from a surveying point of view, you can go up to them and say, hey, I just saw this. So does this happen often? And what would cause that to happen? So for example, an organization that I worked with, they used to leave Post-it note. One part of the team would leave Post-it notes with very little information and doctor's scribble on other people's desks. And other people would get to their desk, they'd see this scribble note, look at it and go, I don't even know what that is. And they'd sit there and they go, who is this? Who gave me this? And everyone around them would be like, not me. And then they throw it in the bin. And I watched that happen time and time again. And I thought, wow, this is fascinating. To the point where in the end, I had to interject. And I said, look, I don't know if this is helpful, but I've seen a guy come from that direction a couple of times now, at least, putting a pink Post-it note on your desk. And she was like, well, what does he look like? So I explained what he looked like. And she said, oh, that's from a completely different department. And I said, oh. Well, that explains why when you wave it around, everyone in your direct vicinity has no idea who it came from. So then we ended up tracking down this team member and saying, is this from you? And he was like, yeah, I need your help. You have to make this change. And she said, number one, it's not got any details on it. Number two, why wouldn't you email me or call me or follow up? So you can see this breakdown, this tension, this anxiety and frustration just building and building in the employee experience. Now, guess where that explodes? In the customer experience, because that team member begins to hate their fucking job. Don't they? They hate the people they work with. They resent the processes. They resent the people. They resent the customer because the customer didn't get the change that they were promised. Literally, this is what happened. The customer didn't get the change they were promised at the end of the day. So the customer lost their mind at the team member who received the pink note but didn't know anything about it. So the customer had more information than the team member did. So you can understand how this just becomes absolutely cataclysmic towards the culture, the employee experience, the customer experience, the human experience. Imagine going home, being that team member and going, I need a stiff bloody drink. I work with a pack of fucking idiots. Right? That is what ended up being the case. She came back to work the next day and said she downed half a bottle of scotch because she was so frustrated because that was just the beginning. So imagine what you get to see when you stop and observe. Imagine what you get to understand differently when you start to ask questions. Right? When you get to be upfront, honest, and candid with the team about what you're trying to achieve so that they get on board as well and engage in the process. And they come back and they say, right, him and I have made a decision that from now on, if he needs my help, he's going to send me an email. He's not going to send me a Post-it note anymore. Wonderful. Does it happen for anyone else? Oh, I don't know. Well, maybe we could find out. Maybe that could just be a new process in the way that we deliver a better employee experience and we reduce the silos that are occurring in our organizations. So observe the people, whether it is observing your customers in the way that they shop, observing your team in the way that they serve and interact with each other. That is so important because, the employee experience is ultimately one of the biggest components to a customer experience. It's not the be all and end all. You can have a wonderful employee experience and a shithouse customer experience. I promise you. But if it is a shithouse employee experience, then you could probably hazard a guess and say it's not a very, very good customer experience. All right. So the third thing I want you to do is I want you to prioritize the findings. I want you to, whether you download a priority matrix, and if you need a simple one, let me know, shoot me a comment. I can email you one. Priority matrix, there's so many different ways, Kanban boards, however you want to slice and dice it, whatever you believe is urgent and high impact, make sure they are your biggest priorities, right? So please don't overwhelm yourself, because you will find a number of things that you have opportunities to do better in, to design differently, to improve the customer experience. So the fourth thing I want you to take into consideration, and we talked about being candid before, and what that just basically means is just be upfront, just be honest in your approach. Don't bullshit, don't beat around the bush, because you need to be upfront and clear about the purpose of what you are trying to achieve and what that looks like. And the fact is, customer experience is everybody's responsibility. You cannot have one department in your team, in your organization, purely responsible with no accountability to anybody else in the organization for customer experience. There has to be everybody in, or not at all. I've seen organizations where customer experience comes under the marketing team. And you know what happens? The marketing team work really hard to create customer experience initiatives, but nobody else fucking does. Or in some cases, it came under the IT team. And you know who works really hard to create customer experience initiatives? The IT team. Do you know who else does? Nobody. So I want you to consider how you are going to hold every single member of your team accountable to delivering customer experience design initiatives and executing them the way the strategy dictates, so that you get that return on investment, so that you improve that customer experience, so that you improve that employee engagement and their experience, so that ultimately you are streets ahead in that human experience, making people want to be loyal to your brand. So when you are applying your priorities out to your organization, apply them to everybody. Allocate them to specific team members who are responsible for upholding the execution, the strategy, and everything to do with that customer experience design. And then find a way to measure it and hold everybody to account. So whether that means that they all get different KPIs that ultimately result in the wonderful execution of your newfound initiatives, so be it. Everybody needs to care, or it will be all care and no responsibility. And then you may as well just not bother. That is pretty much the four things. Go and measure the success of whatever you put out. Please don't just put shit out and forget about it. That is not customer experience. One of the biggest metrics and disciplines around customer experience is metrics. It is discipline. It is governance. It is making sure that whatever you do, you measure it, you check it, you adapt it, you edit it, you try it again. If it's not working the first time, please don't just go, oh, fuck this. It's too hard. Customers are shit. They don't know what they want. Well, no, I put that back on you. If it doesn't work, find out why it's not working. What needs to change? Maybe your data probably needs a bit more like information to it. Maybe it needs a bit more analysis. Maybe it needs a bit more, getting out there and getting qualified data. That's what I love about observations, is it's qualified data. It's not just numbers that, you've then got to be able to tell a story about. It's qualified data, right? So those are the four things, all right? Start from the outside in, talk to your customers. Number 2, do observations. Go and figure out what it looks like to be engaged and involved as a customer and as an employee of your organization. Prioritize your findings. Please don't overwhelm yourself. But when you do that and put them out there to the business to be delivered, make sure that whoever is in charge is being held accountable. It is a whole business strategy, not just yours, not just IT's, not just marketing's, not just the bosses. It's all in or none at all. So if you are new to customer experience and you want to figure out how to apply customer experience design for beginners, essentially, in your organization do those 4 things, and you are well on your way and quite likely ahead of the curve compared to a lot of the organizations I've seen. So if that sounds like something that is necessary in your organization, please put the energy into it, make it happen. If you need help getting started, then you certainly know where to find me. I'm here for you to make it happen, to make you the trusted and value-driven brand that you deserve to be, and you know you deserve to be it. So that is it from me. I am going to put in the comments the URL that you need to go and click on and sign up to be in the running to receive. What are you going to receive? You're going to receive, there's 3 winners of 2 hours of coaching and mentoring for free to celebrate our upcoming 50th live broadcast. So that won't be next Wednesday. It'll be the Wednesday after, and we will announce the winners after that live broadcast. So you've got between now and Wednesday fortnight to click that link, sign up to my monthly newsletter, the 411 with Aileen Day, where we talk all things customer, employee, and human experience. And I can't wait to get my customer experience hands onto your organization and help you become a trusted and value-driven brand. That's it from me today. Thank you so much for joining us. Please make sure that you get out there and you deliver value to somebody else in your life, because what goes around comes around. I'm Aileen Day. Until next time.